What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
I have been waiting the entire month of October to predict this fight. I can't wait for UFC 280. Charles Olivera, Islam Makhachev. In my opinion, this is the best that MMA has to offer. What we will see this coming Saturday night is the pinnacle of MMA.
Yeah, that's very true. And not just in the main event. I think the co-main event and then all the other fights on the main card are just about as good as the UFC could possibly give us. But man, this main event is absolutely perfect. Ever since Khabib left the division, it seemed to me like Islam Makhachev was just like coming to replace him. He was on his way, and that was exactly what the team wanted. It's almost like drawn up in a story, right?
Yeah.
A superhero type of movie. Like, I'm done with my time, but now it's your time to go take the torch and run with it. So that sort of has built the aura around Islam Makhachev. And I feel like with, the Hasbullah and the Khabib being in his corner and all that sort of stuff, it taking place in Abu Dhabi, this is going to be a major party for Islam Makhachev if he is able to get the belt and become the next champion.
Yeah, it's going to be a very pro-Islam crowd. There's no doubt about that. Abu Dhabi is like their second home. They love him over there, and rightfully so. I mean, these guys are great fighters. They're good people. But so is Charles Olivera, and I'm excited to see this fight because I really believe that this is your proverbial rock and a hard place coming to collide. These guys are so skilled. When you look at Olivera, he's got extreme power in his hands. He walks you down. He comes forward. He's not afraid to get hit, and he's not afraid to be on his back because he's got excellent submissions. Islam Makhachev is as calculated, precise, and technical as the UFC has to offer right now. When he gets you against the cage, now that Khabib's retired, there's nobody better at getting you to the ground and keeping you there than Makhachev. So something's going to have to give in this fight. And honestly, I don't really know what's going to give. I'm leaning towards Islam. I think that he's just a little bit better in a few different areas. And we have seen Charles get submitted in the past before. Even though he's a submission machine, he has been submitted a couple of times. And I think over 5 rounds, Islam's going to start to wear on him. He's going to get his back against the cage. He's going to start to get those takedowns. And I'm looking to see if Charles's energy is zapped, because come rounds 3 through 5, if Charles starts to breathe a little heavy, Islam's going to have him right where he wants him and probably get a late finish.
Yeah, that's a great point. And everybody's kind of assuming that Islam's just going to come in there and steal the belt. But I have a tough time seeing Charles Olivera just getting walked all over. I mean, I get when he was at 45, he really wasn't a top contender. And then he made that move up to 55. And people think that when you go down, you actually get better. But history shows that if you move up a division, you tend to have more success. And that couldn't be more of a case than for Charles Olivera and both Dustin Poirier. So I feel like Charles Olivera is really finding his groove. And one thing that people don't really say about him, but they need to start saying, is that he's one of the most entertaining fighters in the UFC.
No doubt.
Everybody just kind of assumes that the most entertaining fighter is Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. But Charles Olivera is a wild man. He likes to go in there and scrap. He throws caution to the wind, and he goes in there and he bangs. And sometimes he gets dropped and he fights off his back, but he usually gets himself back up. He's got unorthodox striking. He throws long knees. He'll throw jumping stuff, spinning stuff, all kinds of things that lead to very fun fights and fun finishes. The problem is Islam Makhachev doesn't really play that sort of game. He's not going to give you the same reactions that Justin Gaethje does. He's not going to give you the same reactions Michael Chandler does. He's going to be nice and calculated. He'll strike with you a little bit. He'll strike with you more than Khabib used to strike with people, but he'll wait for that opportunity and he'll shoot on you. And if you're not ready to defend or get yourself back up immediately, you could find yourself losing around very, very quickly and just staying on the bottom and staying under his ground and pound, which is just about as good as the UFC has ever seen.
Yeah, and I think where Charles is really going to have an advantage, and I think what he has to do is walk forward, march forward like he did against Gaethje, like he did against Chandler, because what Makhachev will do is he'll use his striking as a means to an end. It's only used to back you up against the cage. So he'll come forward just enough to where he gets you a step and a half or even less away from the cage, and then he's in on your legs. And then he's going to bring you to the ground, use the cage to hold you there, and do his best work in that top position ground and pound. He'll sit in half guard. He'll do the leg lockdown that Khabib made so famous, the figure 4 locking down both legs. Point being, he'll use the striking as a means to an end. Charles, when he fought Gaethje and when he fought Chandler, came right out of the gate, came straight forward, threw caution to the wind, was leading with knees, was throwing short elbows, but most importantly was the aggressor. And I think if he's the aggressor, Islam's going to have a harder time getting his back against the cage, and that's going to make things very interesting. But the reason I'm picking Islam to win the fight is because it's a 25-minute fight, Islam will use every second of that 25 minutes if he has to stick to his game plan. He fights nothing like Floyd Mayweather, but it's very similar in the sense that Floyd Mayweather, no matter what the other guy was doing, would stick to his game plan. He would have it in his head what's going to happen before the fight starts, and literally no matter what the opponent does, he's sticking to his game plan, and I think Islam is going to do the same thing, and I think he's going to win a decision. I don't think either man is going to finish the other, but I think Islam's going to win 3, possibly 4 of the 5 rounds and get his hand raised.
That's a great prediction. And I don't really see Charles Oliveira getting submitted like Dan Hooker did. You know, Dan Hooker got put on the ground earlier than he wanted to, and then before you know it, his arm looks like it's getting ripped off. Charles Oliveira is too good to be submitted that easily. And I think if Charles does get submitted or finished, it's going to be either a raining down ground and pound, or it's going to be a submission when he's all but out of it on the ground. Islam's got great submissions, but he's not this ace. You know, he's not, they don't really do jiu-jitsu. They do MMA grappling, and that's what they focus on. They focus on doing damage. And I can't remember if the Abu Dhabi doctors are like New York or Nevada, but I think they're a little bit more like Nevada than New York, and they're going to let things go for the sake of giving these champions the opportunity to fight as long as they possibly can. While Islam seems like the right person to pick, I just think that he does get a little bit caught up in the moment sometimes, unlike Khabib. Khabib would always stick to his game plan, and while Islam likes to stick to his game plan, there's been some times when he goes in there and he strikes with strikers, and he does things that are absolutely frustrating to Khabib in his corner, where you can hear Khabib yelling, like, I don't know what he's saying in his language, but it probably translates to something like, quit doing that, quit striking with this guy, take him down and do what you know how to do. And I feel like that's going to be the issue. If Charles Oliveira is able to land some of those big shots early, he's going to have Islam looking for shots that are a little bit more telegraphed and a little bit easier for him to defend. And who knows, he might throw a crazy knee up the middle and catch Islam and then knock him out cold. You know, we have seen Islam finished one time, and that was the only blemish on his UFC record, really his whole entire MMA record. But I just have a feeling Charles Oliveira is going to continue to be the monster of the lightweight division. If he gets a win over this, it's kind of hard to say that he's not either one of the GOATs or the GOAT of the lightweight division.
I think you're right, and I just cannot wait for this fight.
This one's going to be insane.
Thanks for watching this video, guys. We're your hub for all things combat sports. If that's your jam, we appreciate a subscribe and a like on the video, and drop us a comment down below. We'll see you next time.
Peace.